Yeah. So again, we saved this SMB and shares. Let's go back. Let's use this multi-handler again. But let's now put another exploit, another payload, right, into configuration. It will be Linux. Oh, come on, x86 interpreter reverse TCP, right? Yeah, there is one like that, at least. Let's set it up. Okay, and then exploit in the background. So the moment of truth. Was it worth? Yeah, at least someone is coming for a stage and the session is open. So let's review what we can do from interpreter session on the Linux target machine. Okay. Of course, let's get interactive. First, let's look how it looks like. It looks like the analog of Windows, but yeah, we have much more interesting information here. And let's get interactive with it. So doing the same lateral movement will show us that some things are not available here, right? Just because the architecture is different and the number of things we can do in it is actually limited, okay? But we can do much more in the user land, right? So still we can show the list of processes, we can see where we are, we can list what we have. We can, of course, migrate. I will not risk that here because we can migrate only between the same with the processes with the same permissions. Here it's more risky than in Windows. And let's go execute the shell. And then no, before let's just see what we can do here. Is there anything other than in Windows? Basically we can download and upload. All the basic operations are the same. Yeah, so we can see interface configuration, we can collect some sys information, we can run and kill processes. So let's execute, which is with the same parameters here. Let's execute bash. Of course, let's do it interactively. Okay. So the channel has been created. Let's see what happens here. Nothing is really shown more than expected. And okay, so let's switch to this channel. Channel 1. Okay, so there is no channel like that. That's funny. Maybe we need to put full path here. Yeah, that's okay. So we saw nothing just because it exited right away, because bash should be mentioned by its full path. So we put the full path to executable in order for it to be run. So here are some error messages, just because we cannot fully import all the auto-run scripts that bash for this user executes every time it is run. But basically what we see here is fully interactive born again shell environment, right? Which is kind of cool. So we can do all these different things that are expected from ethical hackers, of course, once they are on the target machine. So what is of interest? Of course, we go straight to EDC, and then we see that there is, of course, a shadow file. Can we read it? Of course not. What we can do with passwords? Passwords are not available, but at least the number of users is there, and we can guess what other programs are running here. And the good thing or a bad thing, again depending on your perspective, is that local escalation privileges in Linux are even more rare nowadays than on Windows. Yeah, so this is what it is. So you have to be familiar with the console in order to do something more than just the things that Meterpreter limits you to. Okay, so again, there is some number of different just a couple of them, different extensions to Meterpreter on Linux you can run. Yeah, so I'm not sure what it is, but this is definitely Sniffer. So which definitely requires super user permissions in order to be run. So I think this is it for Linux post exploitation example. What is the other thing that I want you to get familiar with before we end up this section of attacking the remote targets is, yeah, let's just see what other tools I have here. So you see there are a lot of them, and most importantly I point your attention to this seglists GitHub repository. You have to clone right away, right? So there are a lot of different strings, different lists of strings. There are application security polyglots for XSS, for SQLi, for different types of injections. There are usernames, of course. There are different attack payloads. There are passwords, yeah. So specifically, passwords are the things you have to get a hold of before you start any penetration test activities, right? So this stuff is regularly updated. Please get subscribed and do it now. Yeah. So of course there is this cool thing, exploit database. Yeah. So this is like exploit DB that's now maintained by offensive security team, I guess. So yeah, it's also the GitHub repository, and you can clone it. It's organized in a tree that is very similar to what you can find in the Metasploit framework. So there are different platforms. You go to Linux, yeah, and then you choose local, and there are all these different C and H and Pi and whatever files. You can just take one, yeah, and read what it is all about, right? So it's a post from exploitdb as it was long ago, but now it can be locally it can be downloaded locally, and you can search by this great local tool. You just put, I don't know, Apache in it, and it will show you the report about everything it has with relative paths to the corresponding files, right? So here you have titles for these payloads and exploits and other things, and here you can guess what it is. So this is most probably local information disclosure, yeah, or remote information disclosure, or remote command execution, and so on, right? So quite a cool thing. And of course, you will start from something you already know. Like, I don't know, let's see what it has for our favorite vulnerability. Yeah, so we can cause denial of service, but by that we can do some remote code execution. Something is universal, something is pertaining to some specific Windows version, something is tuned to be reliable on Windows Server, right? Something is just ported to Python, and something is an Ruby module that most probably is the equivalent of the Metasploit framework exploit for that vulnerability. Okay, so that's all really open to suggestions from anyone. You can post your exploits to this database. You can transform it to a Ruby module and post it to Metasploit framework development repository on GitHub. So all that mostly is open source. You can read through it. You can just learn from others by reading their exploit codes that are public. Okay, and yeah, that's the great beginning to have. If you're familiar with C or Ruby or Python, you can always read others' work and learn from it and build upon it, make others' code more reliable, and that's how things work in the security community. Once you start, you can contribute from the very beginning. The quality is arguable, of course, but the willingness to contribute, I assure you, it will meet the very warm reception from the security community, because we all were there. We all there were in the very beginning, where we were somewhat clumsy and not really experienced, but the thing that matters is your willingness to give back to the community. Okay, so let's wrap up this attack section, and let's meet again in next section that is maybe even more important and interesting: attacking web services and web applications. See you there.